that you made it in. I know we have a few out already. So we're very glad that you decided to be here. This morning, we're probably going to look at two different topics that might be unrelated, but we're going by what I have inside of my little book that I'm using for the class called Balance, the Tried and Tested Formula for Church Growth by Our North. And this morning, the first one is more, I think, more practical. It's dealing more with the church building usage and not, overbuilding and that kind of thing. And then you're going to pivot. And so that's the first topic that I'm sure we'll probably fly through. And then the second one, which is chapter 7, is entitled Condescending to Men of Low Estate. And so it's all dealing with helping out people that need the help. So it's a very different topic altogether. So we'll probably cover, I will probably say, most of the second one as well. But the first one should be pretty straightforward, I feel like. If you went, I want to start off by doing this. If you went to a multi-million-dollar corporation and on a Monday morning at 11 o'clock and you only saw one person there, what would you think about that multi-million-dollar corporation? You didn't see anybody going in and out. You didn't see any trucks going in and out. You didn't see any shipments or paperwork or nothing moving at all. What would you think about that place? It's failing? Okay, what you got? Ted? Failing, yeah?
It may be legit.
It be legit. Might be a big old, might be a Nigerian or Indian scam place, Yeah. All right. So, when it comes to how we use the church facilities, as ones have the most important work in all the world, how many of those do you know? Can you go by any time of the day and see somebody there working? Yeah, maybe.
The preachers.
Yeah.
And the office administrator.
Yeah, and that's on a good day. So, most time, and I mean, no matter even the size of the church, I know I've been to a few that have had very, very, very massive multi-million-dollar facilities, and you only see 1 or 2 cars there in the front. And one of those guys is the maintenance guy, sometimes you may only see 2 or 3 cars for the office staff, that kind of thing. And so you would assume that church would be failing, right? It's the same logic toward a corporation and how they should be operating. And then you put that same logic toward the church and how it's working inside of its facilities. You would think one is not working, right? Does everyone agree? No? Why not?
Because if they're not at the building, then maybe they're out doing something.
Right. That is true. That is true. But do you think that the building should ever be utilized? Should the church building ever be utilized, though? I mean, if you're paying for it to have heating and air and water, and you're heating it up every day and cooling it down every day and all kind of stuff, just to kind of sit, what do you think? Well, I'm going to tell you this. This topic right here is probably, I would say, one of the most avoidable topics in this discussion, because I have had, every time I've taught this is the one that goes over everybody else's heads, and it doesn't even matter at the end of the day. So it does matter, but it's just about how people. I'm going to get Craig, and I'll get you. Okay, go ahead. Got in there. Yeah. That's pretty funny. Okay, what you got, Horace?
I always try to use my own experience. And, being raised in the church and then being able to be exposed from a birth was a faithful standpoint to itself. But since I've been used to several different diverse church atmospheres because of the way I moved around, okay, and the way I was able to involve myself behind the scenes to see a lot of things that a lot of members who attend on a regular basis never even see themselves go on,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
You have to really approach it from a personal standpoint in a way where you don't go past what you perceive you understand.
Mm.
If you don't make a judgment, because of it, like for example, I'll give you an example that I'll use like one of my nephews who's living in Katy is trying to find a new church home. He's going around looking now. He's visited where my other brother is, which is in Katy, and then he's visited Sugar Land. And this last weekend, I just had the opportunity to sit down at his my great niece's birthday party with his daughter. And I asked him, I just asked him, what do you like? You like Sugar Land? And he mentioned yes. And I asked him, what drew you there? And the first thing he came out of his mouth, family.
Mm-hmm.
And I just asked him, I say, is that all? Because that's what he said.
Yeah.
I just said, is that all? Because I said, that should be important in a sense, but it's more to it than this family that you ought to be looking at.
Right. Right.
A lot of times that's what we have to understand too. Some people, when they come, you may never know where they are because you don't really realize what they do, but they just happen to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Or some can be where they come in the door, where they look at it, like when I came here. I've been to several churches, but a lot of people don't realize the response you get from people is really what break down all the interventions you may have.
Right.
And it make it easier for you to make decisions. I can say that. I'm not just saying that because I'm here. No, I've been here now long enough where everybody knows it. The way we are here at Stanford, let us not change our makeup as a congregation because that's what's going to get people in the door.
Right.
It's our holiness,
Yes.
the way we try to communicate and acknowledge anybody that walks. But that's what I tell everybody. If you walk in, somebody's going to acknowledge you. You're not going to just sit there without nobody talking to you.
Right. Right.
And we need to keep it.
I agree. Yep. I mean, I think all that this particular topic is about is mainly about, I guess, more stewardship with what you have. It would be more of the angle here that we're talking about. Is that, you have it. Now there's honestly, you don't need a church building to be effective, but because we have one, we can utilize it. Like for example, whenever I was a missionary in New Zealand for several years, we didn't have a church building. We made out of the Rotary Room Hall, very consistently for I know 3 years, maybe 4 years. Anyway, and what happened was that the country went through a string of earthquakes in a very short amount of time. Saying like within 6 months they had, and they get a lot anyways, but that was a lot more major ones that were happening. And so the country began to go through a whole thing that if your building was built before 1989, it didn't meet code. And so that was my whole city where I was at. So they closed down my whole city because it didn't meet code. And I'm saying they had red tape on that thing came out of Parliament on Friday night, Monday morning at 7 a.m. There were guys doing tape over everybody's doors. You can't go in here. And they gave you 2 weeks to get your stuff out and all kinds of stuff. And so that displaced us because we were inside of the halls and to meet the requirements, the Rotary Room, which we were not bound to them, that's where we were meeting at, had to pay about $25,000 minimum to get up to code. This is the community center. They don't have that kind of money floating around. So we had to be closed down. And I went and found us another little spot of a building that was built in 1991. So I went and found a little bitty storefront. It's going to cost us about $150 a week. I think our contribution was sitting around $300. So we could have made it. Could have been it. But the men didn't want to do it. We didn't have any elders, so the men didn't want to do it because of whatever crazy reason. Anyway, and so that moved us in the houses again. That's fine. And so we get moved back in the houses, and what would happen is the house that we were meeting in, the ones that obviously lived in the house felt responsible for doing a whole meal every time we had church. And so they want to do that every Sunday. So we had to alternate between houses every Sunday. When you're trying to evangelize and you don't know what the schedule is, I forgot where we were last Sunday, anything, but that's very professional. And so we were sitting around 25, 30, which is really, really, really good for New Zealand. And we went down to probably 12 overnight because of that situation we got thrown into, because people didn't know where we were meeting at. and we were trying to communicate and trying to do a string text message kind of thing. Everyone gets the same text type thing, and people wouldn't go because they didn't want to go to that person's house, or it's messy, or and one house was very, very messy. One house always had glass on the floor. It was very, very weird. But anyway, and so we didn't get to utilize anything, and we were not able to really evangelize either because we didn't have anything to really cling ourselves to. And I was in favor of going out and finding a place out in the park, and then that's our spot. Everyone knows, go to the park. It's always nice weather in New Zealand. Go to the park. That's where we're going to be at. But everyone wanted indoors and such. I get that. Rain and sun, that kind of thing. I understand. But I wanted to find some place we could always kind of count on being, equally accessible. And that was not the case. So, everyone has different opinions. When you don't have any eldership, you have to go through a lot of different church politics to kind of get things done. And that's never any fun. So I did that for over 10 years. Not any fun. Never got any more fun. So I think when you do have a facility and I believe that even our little church building here is, I'm going to tell you straight up, is if anyone from New Zealand came in and saw what we have, they would just explode with happiness that we have a decent church building in a decent part of the city. Now because all this stuff is like old, falling down. They don't have any money to put anything into it, but they try to make ways to do all kinds of stuff for those things. I mean, they would do all kind of crazy stuff. They would do AA meetings on one time. They would do youth night on one time. They would do like what they call mission night, which is more of this outreach type stuff on one night. And they would probably have something going on 3-4 nights a week at that little bitty building in the back of someone's, you couldn't dare see it, but man, they're always doing something there. So I think that this topic is more of a perspective approach. I think it's more of a mental grasp of what we do have compared to what we may not have. And I'm not saying that we should change everything that we're doing, but I am saying that I think that there is wisdom in utilizing what we do have to better serve in areas of evangelism and helping out people and kids and all kinds. I think we can use it better. What do you got, Rick?
Well, it's kind of on the flip side, but when I was 16, I went to work selling groceries, and we were closed on Sunday. And most of the supermarkets were closed on Sunday. So, you go to church and you'd hear on the radio a little jingle that said, bells are ringing, birds are singing, Sunday morning, Houston goes to church. All right, and the next thing I know, okay, my company was owned by a Jewish family, okay? But we were open on Saturday, and so people started open on Sunday, so they figured, well, you know, this is the logic they used was the buildings there were paying the rent, the electricity goes on, the groceries are sitting there, they're not moving off the shelves on Sunday. And so they started open on Sunday. They didn't, but the basis is that they did not have any respect for the Sabbath or for the Lord's Day. My company.
Yeah.
And so it put people who wanted to go to church on all the employees that worked for them, wanted to go to church on Sunday in a bind because we opened at 10 in the morning and we closed at 6 on Sunday. So, and it works with products too. A long time we did not carry beer in one portion of our company. Now, wine was another thing. We had wine for a long time. But then a Church of Christ owner, a very prominent grocery chain here in Houston that's now finally gave in and introduced beer and wine into all of his stores. So, you know, to me, it just seems like if you want to utilize the building, and we utilize it on Sunday, but we don't utilize it very much except Wednesday.
Right. And the whole point of this particular topic, that's what I'm saying, is it's more of a practical point than a scriptural. We don't read about church buildings inside the Bible. I believe that they met inside houses. But I think it's probably one house, probably, because of how the epistles were written, to the church in your house, XYZ. So they had a designated meeting place anyways, but, I think that it's just, it's very important, though, that I think we practice proper stewardship of what we do have. Here's a quote. We recommend that every building be turned into a great teaching factory, and that it be used for the glory of God and for the spread of the kingdom. Every hour, on the hour, morning, noon, and night, 365 a year, if at all possible, because it's kind of, and then he compares it to kind of like the insurance building, 7 days a week, sometimes working, everyone's walking around stuff, doing things. He says that if he goes into a big church building and he hears the pitter patter of little feet and hears the words, Jesus loves me, he knows it's on the move. Okay. Well, that is all I have for that topic. See? Took 10 minutes. Yes, Jim.
I agree.
Right.
And I got zero support from the rest of that community. And I thought that,
Because you wanted to merge?
I wanted to at least investigate.
Okay.
We were only talking about investigating. And
Right.
we got zero support concept. That's millions of dollars that we're talking about there. Of stewardship, putting the money to good use.
Right. What was their thinking when they were going through all that? Highlights.
I think
I know there's quite a lot going on here, but highlights.
people who were officers were concerned about they could not duplicate that position in the local church. Because you're gonna have to merge the leadership too.
Right.
So we got the head elder or whatever. That was, we didn't even get to that. But trying to address that issue of stewardship fell flat on its face.
Yeah. 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 I completely understand where you're coming from. I do understand.
At that time too, the property that was sold available, that life was one. There was a pretty job behind us, from a ranch. There were 3 acres over there. Kmart was here for a long time, so this area, this property is private property too. It's like 3 acres here, it was 3 acres, you know, where the 7-Eleven is.
Yeah.
There was a diner there, and about 2 acres that was available there. So I think they were looking at it from the viewpoint, that this would move into something a whole lot bigger than just a small church, because this is 3 acres, 3.5 acres. This is a very, very large piece of property.
It is. It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. And that's why I'm saying I think because we do have it, you know, I think that we can use it. So, all right. Is there anything else about that? Anyone else wants to mention? Yes, go ahead.
It's always, our concern, be the question, and I can imagine what the world is seeing, when there is a congregation of Churches of Christ here, and then one right down the street. And we say we won. Something is off base there.
That's a super duper subject.
Okay. Well, we got 3 in stature.
Right.
It's a full spectrum.
This local area is a terrible example of too many churches.
Yeah.
Most, if you're going to do it on a business basis, a stewardship basis, you come up with your money, like McDonald's does. They don't put a McDonald's a block away. When the Church of Christ has no mechanism for controlling the number of churches of Christ in a particular geographic area.
That's right.
This is a bad example of how that policy, or lack of policy, leads to a bunch of little churches of Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, and some of that stuff I think is sentimental value. Because grandpa did this and grandma put money in and it's his house on the,
We've been here for 50 years.
Yeah.
But there's lots of reasons for it, but like I said, it's difficult for the concept of stewardship to fit into a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
A nonprofit religious organization has
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll get worse on you don't mind. Go ahead.
And it's a good subject.
Well, I really want to be short and sweet, but going on. Oh, go ahead.
Because it's like what everybody said, and that's a good point that the sister made about churches being so close. Because I like to state the example where I'm at. Okay, it's like right out there in my area. Okay, we got First Colony in Sugarland. We got Sugarland Church of Christ, where it is. We got Mercury Road, which is smaller than us, but it's a small congregation.
Yeah.
In that area.
Yeah.
small membership. Like Hitler's got a pretty good size membership. Whereas Cosby's got a huge membership. You know. Now, I don't know how many that Murphy Road, but Murphy Road is a real small company. It's not small. Murphy Road
Yeah.
is not smaller than us. It's real small.
They also have some different rules.
Yeah, they're not institutional. Yeah, we have the full picture of the staff. We be the middle, and Murphy Road's constitutional or anti. I'll go with anti. And then Sugar Grove is First Colony duplicate, small version.
Yeah, they've changed it.
Yeah, they're letting women in all kind of stuff. They're doing all kind of crazy stuff. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
The reason Murphy Road is there, Murphy Road is spin off from the Bel Air Church.
From the
Okay.
Bel Air.
Bel Air Church Christ is what they call a non-co-op.
Yeah,
They don't cooperate with other congregations.
yeah.
They have their own thing. Missouri City is a spin off from Bidwell.
Okay.
Stafford is a standalone congregation.
Yes, well, Stafford is one of the original ones for the area. Stafford helped. Yeah, that was Gene, went down to start First Colony, and Stafford helped start Sugar Grove in some fashion, and somebody else.
The old building was equivalent to Western.
Yeah, the one on the street, the deal with it. Yeah. Yeah, Stafford was pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh, and I forgot about that other Church of Christ right now. Elton and Apple used to be, way out there by Elton High School, and they moved over there. I forgot the name of it.
Austin Road.
Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not too sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, we got a lot of churches.
Austin Road's got a lot of families, but they're not institutional.
Okay, that's, now what I'm trying to say now, they talking about the Murphy Road out here, we got one of those small Murphy Road church right by that bus barn off of Old Whitney. The name of it is Murphy Road Church of Christ, too, it's right by the bus barn off of Old Whitney Road out there by me.
Well, and you got Mission Bend too, in Richmond. They got about 20 over there.
That's why I said that Mission Bend area.
Oh, okay, same thing. Okay.
They still, they have two services. Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon.
None of them have 3.5 acres.
Hey, out there, Craig. Hey, I bet you First Colony does. They got,
Oh, no, Kirk County got about.
they got guys beat on
They
it.
have about 15 acres.
They do. I bet they got all kinds of stuff. Now
They
they're-
got about 15 acres.
Yeah.
They got a lot of acres there.
Yeah. Well, what you got, Ed?
So, do you know if there's been any talk, maybe like the smaller congregations maybe coming to join with us? That you know of, I mean, being that we on the topic, like a lot of these places, like I said.
No. It would make sense if they would.
Yeah.
Like, I thought Mission Bend is. Oh, shit.
What is Mission Bend?
It's in Richmond. But they got about 20. Yeah. There you go. Yes.
Well, you know, I have an example of that.
What you got?
In Delaware, and, okay, 30 years ago, there were two large congregations, and then they had a couple of small ones. But when I say large, I mean like 100,
Yeah.
125, not like First Home. But, and when DuPont was there, I mean, they're still there, but big, those congregations were both like 100, 150, whatever, And then DuPont downsized. So a lot of those people went to the moved. They moved. So the congregation got smaller. And at one point, the Newark Church had a school there. It went from pre-K to 8th grade. And so there was a lot of people there. We drew people from school and everything. And then the other one had they also had some of the DuPont people. And anyway, they had a little school, okay? And then same thing happened to them when they looked. Anyway, what happened to them just recently, there was a smaller congregation over here, and they had gone down so much that those two merged, and they're a congregation now. But they're still not like they were. And then Newark was, the school closed and for, whatever reasons. And and now I still get their bulletin, and they're about the size we are, and they have a big building, but, so it's, yeah, because for now, it seems like back in the 70s, when I first became a Christian, there was a lot of people going on, and a lot of things, a lot of churches, a lot of things like that. And as time has gone by, I feel like we're not as active as we were back then.
Correct. And that's one thing I do like to do, where I go and minister at. We can't do that here because we just have a lot of position here. But what I'll do, every church I've ever been with, other than this one, is I go back to all of their past bulletins. I'm saying back early day stuff. Where I got that fucking code. And I'll get I'll make a list. And I'll get a whole thing about what they were doing when they were moving forward, progressing, and growing. And then I'll say, can we, in a sense, reduplicate this today? Because church, we haven't changed any, just, the motivation has changed. That's more of the difference here. And I haven't had one church that want to do it. But I was like, man, it was working for y'all in this area. Y'all have figured out here's how it works. And then y'all just don't want to do it. I don't understand the logic. I mean, like, you can do it here. It's like what you were doing. What in the world are y'all doing that? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think what a lot of it is that I feel like there are three major factors that are at play. I think number one is that because we live inside of a more modernistic, secularized society, it's very, very easy for us to forget our identity as being the church. Because I think the devil's done a really good job about calling every other group a church. Only one church in my Bible. But I think that that's the whole process of desensitizing everybody to the church. Now, everybody's a church. You're going to be a church. Well, that's wrong. Kind of like with, I know you're going to have to try to force it, but I think of that as a whole, that's a problem. So now the word church no longer has any kind of special meaning at all. Now it's become commonplace. I think that's the work of the devil. I think that was intentional because he knew that only one church, so I'm going to make sure that even that by itself is going to be unimportant. What are we going to do? We're going to denominationalize everybody. It must be a church thing. Problem. Number two thing I think that we have gone away because of the modernistic relative, everything is relative, is that we don't want to do anything because we don't want to get pushback, conflict. We don't want to get involved with anybody. We don't want anyone in our business or whatever. And I know some churches, I don't think it's us, I know some churches know that, like they will not ever, even like, when they do their live stream, they won't even do the announcements on live stream. They won't even want to do the business. No one knows who they are, other than, whatever. But I think that's just a piece of society. I think it's, we want to create an isolation type thing there. And I'm a loser, I don't do it. And the last thing is, I think that we have really forgotten the fear of God. across the board. I think that idea is that we enhance that too all over the place. They had a great fear of God. They knew what God did when they Jesus Christ from the dead. They knew about the fear of God and all the signs and wonders and miracles that Christ did. They were very well aware of the power of God. They were very well aware of everything happening. Now God led us in the world, and we lost. So I think all those three things, though, are what's impacting why it seems like we can never get ahead. Because I think it comes down to perspective, motivation, headspace, even cultural side. Because we all live in this culture. We all have different mentalities of the culture and how we look at our world and stuff. I think when you put all of it together, it creates. I feel like that's why a lot of churches are just one big like gray area. You're not. That's how you feel like you are. You don't feel like you really get anywhere. I'm gonna get Christian. I'm gonna get you. Go ahead, Christian. Anyway.
I think too, it's, even if it was something, so you see on Wednesdays, we have like the summer series. And the preacher comes from their congregation, but unless it's the wife or the child or the family members, then you really don't have any of the members of their church that comes.
Yeah.
Which during that time would be a good time to basically like invite them so that you can kind of, fellowship and you can kind of intertwine with one another so that it's not just the preacher. I think that would be like a great opportunity so that churches of Christ can kind of join together or even do something where it's like biannually or annually, where it's like, okay, even if it's the smaller ones or even if it's just the local ones, hey, we're doing a field day or something of that sort. So then it's like, yeah, I go to Sugar Land or I go to First Colony or whatever the case may be. But at the same time, when we want to grow or they introduce people to the word and they say, well, I live closer to Stafford, they could say, oh, well, we have members of Stafford Church of Christ. You can actually go there. So it's not about winning members over for the church. It's more or less of spreading the word and then just making sure that they're able to commit themselves because the root, it's not the commute, it's not that far.
Right.
But I see that, a lot of the times when we do have preachers, they come, they come with their wives or their children, but you really won't see any of their members that will come. And it's like, I don't know if maybe, it's not an invitation put out there from the preacher to their members, like, hey, I'm going to be here Wednesday, or maybe, I don't know the verbiage of the communication to, but I think that would be a great opportunity to get the churches of Christ to kind of come together, see what different programs, because you have other churches of Christ that they have amazing programs.
Yeah.
And we might be limited to that because the resources or the age group or, just certain things that we can actually like brainstorm together and then, make work. But,
Yeah. I think it's fair. What you got?
One of the things too, that we need to understand, that I've experienced with just talking to people, watching things going on around me. Just like what's happening that everywhere I live. And I'll use an example. About 2 years ago, I was talking to a lady I met who was actually really involved in the denomination. And she asked me a simple question, which was, what church do you go to? And it surprised me when I told the Church of Christ, and this lady who was 70-something years old told me she had never heard about the Church of Christ. That stunned me.
Where's she from?
I didn't use it.
In Houston? That's amazing. She's
I've never heard about the Church of Christ.
Yeah.
And two, that's what we have to understand too. And then, like I said, I see a lot of churches, and this is what we got to say. We got to do with the way the world is today. You got all these churches coming up where they establish them, starting them, and they putting all these different names on them.
Yeah.
And they drawing people like flies, man.
Well, see, I'm gonna get you ready. See, I firmly believe, I mean, I'm not against all denominations entirely. I think, and they're very big into, their conventions and their creeds and stuff. And the Bible's very clear that our only creed is that Christ is the Son of God. That's all we need to be. Everything that's pointing toward that. That's us. Where they do 20 other things and stuff. But the community church are Baptists, mostly. There are some Church of Gods in there. There's some Assemblies of God scattered through there. But overall, and that's what I saw someone the other day, is that community churches have these different names. A lot of the Baptists, because what they did is back in about 20 years ago, they had this conference at the Southern Baptist Convention, the SBC, and they said that we need to find a way to evangelize among the unchurched people. And so they came up with this idea that we're not going to call ourselves whatever Baptist church anymore, because that's going to create a barrier between somebody coming to church now. I understand logic. What they did, though, is they said, we're going to do little spin-offs. We're going to call them non-denominational. But all of those ministers in there are all Baptists.
I know that.
And so they're Baptists, but they don't know they're Baptists. And to me, it's very, to me, it's extra deceitful. Because now you're spinning off this sneaky stuff.
So like River Point, that's huge.
Yeah.
I think they're bigger than First Colony.
Probably.
That was, their origin is Baptist or whatever.
Yeah, Steve over there, he's pretty Baptist. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, now, see, I just learned something new, I never knew.
That's what they do. They're sneaky. And what they do is they, have you ever heard of Saddle Creek with Rick Warren?
Oh, yes.
Okay, on California. What they do is they say, what Rick Warren did back in the 70s is he went to LA, Saddle Creek, or LA, and he did it as a survey thing. And so instead of going there and just saying, we're going to preach Baptist doctrine, we're going to do a survey, and we're going to call it a seeker-friendly survey. So whatever the survey produces, y'all want more interest, y'all want more plays or ball games, whatever y'all want to do, we're going to do that to match the community, and then we're going to water down everything and keep people coming in. And then what's happened is, and he's Baptist too. He came out of Dallas Seminary out of Dallas. So what they did now, so now churches have adopted that philosophy. They say, oh, we're going to do that everywhere. We're going to just kind of adapt our community. And we're going to water everything, keep everybody happy. And we're going to feed them essentially the Baptist doctrine too. Mostly is what most of it will be. Again, there's going to be some smatterings of different things in there. But overall, it's going to be Baptist. So it's a very sticky thing. I think Saddle Creek kind of paved the way for it, and then they just kind of, 20 years later, because he was almost banned from back then, didn't he? Now they've changed it to kind of fit his,
So Rick Warren?
yeah, because he was not being traditional, but now they're all falling kind of, so it's very sticky stuff.
You see, you're right about that, because I have several members who live on my block. They go to that big old River Point church right there by Memorial Herman Hospital.
Yeah.
And that's basically like what you said, the group that started that was the group of Baptist ministers.
Yeah.
And they changed the name and put that, and they got, if you go out there, man, they got a big old something. They actually got cameras out there.
Yeah. Well, I thought about the other day. We didn't time's up. I really thought we were going to get through more material. But I did want to end with this. I thought about this thing. Is, denominations overall are Calvinistic. Okay, so one of the tenets of Calvinism is what's called total hereditary primary. So everyone is born fully depraved. You can do nothing at all ever to obtain salvation. No amount of your obedience can, in their minds, get you to heaven. It doesn't matter. They're very against any kind of obedience. That's my phenomenal, what the Bible says, that if those you might have. So anyway, but what's interesting though, is I think that they did a lot of this entertainment stuff called the soda press. So that's their doctrine, and the soda press, and Calvinism is all about controlling the person. And what they done is they kind of blackmailed it. They said, "Did you feel the Spirit? Well, you didn't. You're not saved." It's now they begin this whole thing on all control based. It's very interesting. John Calvin was a dictator. Is what he was. If you research it a little more, he's a dictator. Anyways, and I think that whole thing is all this control. Even and we always, and I know some churches of Christ say that we have to be like them. We have to introduce the initiative, we have to introduce also be like them. So Israel did the same thing with what he did king. And Samuel, who God's authorization says, okay, I will give you one, but you have a lot of problems. And I don't know of any church that has actually adopted a domination mentality has really survived. They have numbers, but they lost everything. So, it's not really worth it. So you get bigger, but you're gonna lose everyone's salvation process. Is that really important? So I think it's interesting. I'm gonna stop. We're already 3 minutes over, 4 minutes over. So next week we'll go into condescending to men of low estate from Romans 12:16. I think it is. Anyway, thanks for being in class today. Appreciate y'all. A good discussion, and we'll worship here in a few minutes.